So the question that I have is, at what age do you stop giving your kids Easter baskets? If you've tuned in to see if you can argue with your spouse and still be madly in love, you're in the right spot.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Annie.
And we're the Kilkos. Sounds like a game show.
We're your host of Life's Little Arguments. We're not trained experts in love and marriage. Actually, we might be quite dysfunctional, but we have been happily married for 16 years.
Debatable.
Not only will we share all the ups and downs of marriage, but the ins and outs of raising his and her kids, growing through new jobs and opportunities, and our latest obsession, our empty nest babies, our dogs, Blakely and Lincoln.
So if you hear ding, ding, ding across the microphone, they're probably walking across the floor.
Listen in each week while we discuss our life, current events, random TikToks, and the little arguments that undoubtedly come up. Whether you're in a long-term relationship yourself or in a fresh new relationship, we hope you find our podcast fun, entertaining, and helps you realize there is a normal in life's little arguments. All right. Well, you didn't give a response to that question.
So I would say should be 18.
Really? Why?
Because they're out of high school, presumably, or they're adults at that point. But I feel like that...
Is that what you think should happen, or is that what actually did happen, or is that what happened when you were growing up? Like, how did this all work?
I don't remember any of the above. I don't remember when my mom stopped doing mine, although I feel like I was probably an adult.
I know. Angie Welford, we need you to need you to weigh in on this, please, and let us know. It switched over
to like money eggs at that point, of course, which is good. I mean, you know, as a young adult, any type of money was good. So, but I think traditional. When I think of Easter basket, I'm thinking of like a traditional Easter basket, 18 tops. But then if you want to get stupid and do like, you know, money or whatever, I don't know. Maybe when they move out of the house.
I can't honestly I'm trying to remember the last time I gave the kids an Easter basket. The last time that I remember giving one is when Lauren was still here. This was before the period of, not speaking or whatever. So she was still in high school. Jackson was still in high school. And I remember I didn't put it in a basket, I don't think, or maybe I did. But I gave him I did bathing suits and a beach towel or, something that they were going to use or maybe would have wanted if we were fixing to head on vacation or something like that. But that's been quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
At this point.
In fact, I remember, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I would probably guess 18-ish, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely not done one since Lauren's been here.
No. You almost did one for the dogs.
Yeah.
And I was like, bro, that's a little much. Just get them a toy if you want to. And you did.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I'm glad you did not actually put it into a basket because that would have been a complete waste. So, and then you wanted to get something for Nellie and Odie, and you got them toys, which is cool too. So...
They got, let's see, because it was St. Patrick's. They got St. Patrick's Day toys, and then they got pre-Easter toys, and then they got actual Easter toys. Oh, what is that? Why is that sliding like that? What is that?
It's odd.
What is that?
It was telling us to
go over.
Yeah, I don't know.
Roll up. I don't know. Anyway, so the reason I bring that up is, so Lauren was telling me tonight that her mom asked her if she got an Easter basket here. And, of course, Lauren's
And for those who don't know, if you're new, Lauren is my daughter. She's 20. It's Annie's stepdaughter.
Yes. And she's living with us. She's been with us now. We've hit probably 2 years now. Yeah. This is 2 years. And so, Lauren tells her mom no, she didn't get an Easter basket. And that is correct. She did not. Nobody got Easter baskets. And her mom was like, oh, when I didn't get you one here because, you weren't here or whatever, she was working. Because she worked the entire day on Easter. And so we ended up doing Easter dinner on Monday. The kids came over and we did Easter dinner on Monday. Anyway, and so I don't know, several days later, I guess it was, you said? Several days later? Anyway, a couple days later, her mom sends her a Venmo for $100, and she's like, here, because they didn't get you an Easter basket, I want to make sure you had something for Easter or whatever. Just like, good. Yay for you.
Good for you.
Good for you. Yay. Yay for you.
Lauren has younger sisters, too, that are...
She was like, go spend it on yourself and only yourself or something like that.
Yeah, Lauren has...
Instead of paying you for, school or something.
Lauren has younger sisters that are more Easter basket age appropriate, but that's fine. So, all right, yeah.
Can I roll my eyes any harder at this? Yeah. My God.
I know. I just heard y'all mention Easter, and I was like, okay, I gotta sit here and see.
Lauren, by the way, loves to kind of like creep in the hallway right there when we're doing the podcast, and then she just moseys her way in here.
Well, I heard Easter, and I had to see a reaction.
We're done with Easter. Bye-bye. We're done with Easter. Bye-bye.
Just let your dog out so y'all don't have to get up. So.
One thing I want to talk about is, and probably my algorithm, I told you, I think we talked about it in the last episode, is I have started following just about everybody on Love on the Spectrum. I'm completely 100% dialed into these people. By the way, Danny has a new boyfriend.
Oh, does she?
He's a cop.
Is she getting a D?
I can only assume so. I didn't go down that rabbit hole too much, but I can only assume so. But that's what made me think about this today, was because, half of the people were like knocking her, and then half of the people were like, guys, like she's literally just saying how she feels. Like, think about how much easier relationships and dating would be if people just set up front how they feel or whatever. And so anyhow, and then there's this guy that I follow. I don't know his name. He just comes across my FYP, but he does impersonations, and I think he did impersonation or impression. I always get those confused. But anyhow, he does these ones.
Can I just stop for a second? And you tried to like act like you were cool right there saying FYP.
Oh my gosh, shut up. So anyhow, he does these impressions mainly of the guys, and I mean he nails it. I mean he absolutely
he really does. It's really good.
Well, so if you go to the comments, it's 50-50 there too. Some of the people are like,
yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was like, I don't know if I like this. Like this feels because like, are you making fun of?
Right.
Like,
so that's the question. So you have a lot of people on there who are. I see it both ways. I really do. So in my mind,
you're so loud.
A show like Love on the Spectrum, getting this type of mainstream attention, to me, really brings an awareness to autism that most people probably never knew of. You know, because when you think of when some people think of autism, they probably think the absolute worst person on the spectrum, because it's such a wide spectrum, and I think that's partly what this show.
Not worst person, like that doesn't sound good. That was a poor choice of words.
Yeah, so they have the
diagnosis.
Their diagnosis or things that they struggle with or challenge. It may be more extreme than others, and I think that's where this show to me kind of brings light to that. Is they're just all over the spectrum, and so anyhow. I think that there's a subset of the population that says, look, you're poking fun, you're making fun or whatever. And then there's a subset that's, look, I mean, these are things that we're talking about that we've never talked about before. And I think, for me personally, it has caused me to go out and start researching more autistic stuff so I can understand it a little bit better and understand it more. And, when you see, like, some things that one person does and some things that another person does, and so, to me, it just makes me want to research it more and more and more and more. So if I ever encounter it, I feel like I'm more equipped to have the right conversations and that kind of thing. So I don't know. I mean, the guy nails it. I mean, he nails the impressions.
Yeah, he's...
And when you follow, like, Tanner, and when you follow...
Lincoln's walking around, like...
Yeah.
Bat out of hell in here. He's knocking everything
like
over.
Like a bull in a china shop. Yeah. So, but when you follow like Tanner and Connor and all this stuff, and their moms and all this stuff, they don't seem to really be bothered by the discussion or the conversation, because I think that they're thinking about it like I'm trying to say is that it's bringing this to the forefront, and it's making people talk about stuff they've not talked about before. So,
come here, Bubba.
What are your thoughts on that?
Come here.
And I did not mean to say worst person. That was a poor choice of words. I was, you know what I'm saying, though.
I think it when I saw the TikTok, like I was like, oh, like he is nailing it completely. But my first thought was, is it making fun of, or is it, is it just like is an impersonation making fun of? Like I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but I think if they're okay with it, then I'm okay with it, kind of thing. But I think that is going to be totally up to every single individual. But I do like that I like the show a lot. I like seeing them, and I think there's something about how just blunt that they are that I love, because they can just say what they're thinking. It's no bullshitting. And, it's like, oh, okay, well, we can actually do this without getting our feelings so hurt or getting so wrapped up in things. And when I say that, I'm more so talking about, like, when it comes to the dating piece of it, like, they know immediately, like, they're like, boom, in and out. And we're like, okay, we had one date. Yeah, I don't think I like you. So I'm going to move on. I think we'd be better off as friends. And I'm like, okay, how much better would things be if you could quit tap dancing around that? Yes, that's very interesting, but I'm not interested. And so...
But it's to me, it's the authenticity. Like, if you could...
Yeah.
If you could, like, literally... wake up and start your morning by talking to Tanner for 5 minutes every morning. Like, it would be impossible to not be in a better mood. Or if you could sit and have a conversation with Connor for 10 minutes every day about whatever it is, swords or knights or whatever it is that he wants to talk. Like, it would be impossible to not just feel so much better about just I mean, their authenticity, their heart, their energy, their enthusiasm. It just, I don't know, man. It's infectious to me. And I think that's what draws so many people into this show is it's infectious. It's hard to not love these people and their parents. I mean, their parents and their sisters and they're great. I love it. I absolutely love it. So
yeah, I think it's a very no.
But it'll be interesting to see, like, when if people get offended, like, what that turns into, and does it shut down, and does social media start to what's it called where they cut it off?
Yeah, they censor it.
Yeah, censor it.
I mean, I think it's great, because I think there's so many people out there that are probably have an autistic diagnosis that you maybe don't know about, or they don't talk about, or they're afraid to share, or they've been treated a certain way. I mean, when we were growing up, I don't know that I recall hearing the word autistic.
Yeah.
You had classes where you had kids that were, slower, and in those slower classes, and then you had, your regular, Jackson used to call them regular ed. And then you would have you had special ed, you had regular ed, and then you had, like, your
advanced,
gifted classes or whatever. And there's probably so many more of us that are, quote unquote, on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I guess everybody's on that spectrum, right? Is that correct?
I don't know.
Anyway, I think it's great, because I think it brings awareness. I hope that people are open to seeing it and talking about it. And I hope that people are kind.
Yeah.
I just hope that people are kind, because there's no reason not to be. It costs nothing to be kind and take, an extra second to interact.
To be patient if you see, whatever.
Yeah.
But so RFK Jr., he's the head of health and whatever the title is now, and he, I think, misspoke, because he's talking about getting dyes out of food and that kind of thing. And so he misspoke, and he was talking about it causes autism. He said, autistic children are going to grow up and they're not going to be able to talk. They're not going to be able to be, contributing members of society and all this stuff. And he's taking a lot of heat for it. The guy...
That's a very broad...
Correct. The guy on the show with the longer curly hair, I can't think of his name, but he did a video, and I watched it today, and he was offended by it. And he said, I'm old enough, I've lived long enough to understand that is not the right thing to say. And so I say all that to say that I know I can't speak for RFK Jr., but I'm guessing that what he's describing is kind of that most severe case. Mm-hmm. But the point I'm trying to make is there are those severe cases, and there always will be, but there's also the far less severe cases. You may still have autism, but you can still socialize, you can still work, you can still drive, you can still be a incredible
contributing member of society. Yeah.
And so I think when he said that, it was a very, very broad, general, wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
But I think that was his intent, was to say these dyes cause extreme cases and this kind of thing. But anyhow, I said it last episode. I hope they come out with a season 4. If not, I'll be following these people for the next 20 years. I absolutely love them. I think they're great people. I think their families are great, and I can't wait to see what all. Yeah. And Con, Connor's gonna have 1 million followers on TikTok. I mean, Tanner's gonna be the same way. I just freaking love it. So.
Yeah, I think it's great. I love it. So what else do we? Let's talk about. Can we talk about the ChatGPT roasting? So we're recording this on a Thursday. What day is today? Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
And so that was big on Facebook today, at least in our Facebook world area, about the ChatGPT roasting.
You do a picture, and then you say roast me or whatever, right?
Right. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump on this train and try it. And so I put a picture of us in there, and I was like, can you roast us or whatever? And she's like, okay, well, do you want it to be more light and funny, or do you want me to be savage? And I was like, no, girl, let's be savage. Let's see. And
do you want to read what ours says?
I don't know if it makes sense without the picture, but you can.
I think probably they can picture any picture of us, and it's probably still going to be the same description.
Okay. So. Well, okay. So the caption she gave us is just two snacks looking like a senior meal special. So,
first of all, the fuck is senior meal? I got some gray hair, but good God.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if it's because of your gray hair that she brought that out. Anyway, she said, you look like the poster couple for a retirement community ad titled Still Got It, except no one asked what it is. And frankly, we're scared to find out. Sir, that shirt says, I discovered Margaritaville and I'm never coming back. And those pants, somewhere out there, a golf course is missing its most dedicated assistant manager.
And first of all, why the fuck am I not the manager versus an assistant manager?
Ma'am, you're serving Pinterest mom who will ask to see the manager if a sangria isn't sweet enough, which basically means I'm a Karen.
Which basically means that you're going to get me to have the conversation.
And the sweater over the shoulders, giving 2002 J. Crew catalog with a vengeance. And that tattoo, it's screaming. I used to be wild before I got a Peloton. I was about to spit my water out because I'm like, I ain't never been on a Peloton, but okay. Together, you look like that couple that crashes weddings just for the open bar and dances like nobody's watching. But unfortunately, we all are.
So read then the dogs. Anybody who knows us knows our dogs. So read what it said about them.
Yeah, the 2 poodles that are laying here on the couch beside me asleep. Okay, so I told it to roast the baby doggies, and she's like, okay.
Well, first of all, the baby doggies are sitting in the back of the stroller. Yes. Blakely's on the left, Lincoln's on the right.
They're in the stroller. And she's like, left pup, the pink bow princess. Ma'am, you look like you just requested a puppuccino with oat milk and whispered, make it aesthetic. You've got that face that says, I'm not mad, just disappointed. And I bet you bark in lowercase letters. Probably has a skincare routine and judges people who shop at PetSmart. I was cackling at that one. And then right pup, the caramel king. Sir, you look like you've seen some things. Like you were the getaway driver in a squirrel chase gone wrong. That curly floof screams mom's favorite. But the eyes say, I've peed on her throw pillows and I'll do it again. Also, why do you look like you moonlight as a therapist for emotionally unavailable cats? His bow tie, it does look really cute. It says, together, they look like that bougie couple who rides in the stroller at the farmer's market and throws shade at every dog on a leash. Fully convinced they pay rent and run the household. And honestly, they're not wrong. So
I noticed that when you...
I mean, can we show the picture on the Facebook Live?
And I noticed when you were talking...
Accurate.
When you were talking about ChatGPT, you kept referring to her as a she. Why is that?
I think she deserves to be... I think my personal ChatGPT is a female.
Okay.
I think she gets me and she understands me, and I feel like she is a she.
Okay. Just didn't know if there's a reason for that.
I mean, I think just like if you were interacting with your ChatGPT a lot, do you think you'd be like...
But see, I don't address it like you do. I don't start my chat by saying, "Hey, Lisa," or whatever yours is.
I just say, "Hey, chat." What's up?
Hey, chat. I mean, like
going?
I don't.
How you doing?
Yeah, I don't talk like it's a iRobot or anything.
Oh.
Which I mean, there's.
You would.
I'm not hating on you, but
listen, I send Aisha things all the time. I'm like, I sent her one the other day.
She has full-on conversations.
Oh, she absolutely does. I mean, I was like, this is you to a T. It was like, I only have I think it was something like, I have a very small circle of friends. Matter of fact, only 3. And one of them is ChatGPT or something like that.
That's funny.
So I'm like, yeah. But I mean, it's really, it's great, which is very interesting. So it's, I saw something, I don't remember which one it was on, but it was basically something about, the AI that they have out there. And they have some apps out there that you can full on, like, be friends with an AI.
Oh, wow. How much does that cost?
Do you call a person? I don't know. And these people legit have, like, relationships. And so I think I feel like it's not allowed in the U.S. at this point. Like, it's not been licensed or allowed to come here. But because these people are, like, full on having, like, they're getting emotionally attached
I can see
to these.
that, yeah.
And they can, so, like, I think it gives, like, a whole, like, picture, like, it's a whole person, and it, like, literally is, like, my best friend type of thing. And people are, like, falling in love with it. But I think, the concern, obviously, is it still is AI. It still is learning. Like, what if it gets into the wrong hands? What if somebody, you hear all about these, these bullies online that are, convincing these kids
to do stuff.
Yeah. Or, these kids have killed themselves over these things before. Yeah. So what's to say that this wouldn't happen also when you've gotten so...
You say kids, hell, adults.
Yeah,
there's some adults who get attached to this stuff.
So attached to these AIs. So I think it's a very controversial thing. And, chat, I don't know that you could get emotionally involved with chat, but I would not be surprised if it's somebody out there has it.
You think about, like, when you were a kid and you talked to Teddy Ruxpin, you started thinking Teddy Ruxpin was real?
I didn't have a Teddy Ruxpin.
I'm sorry.
I also can't say it.
I'm sorry.
The
Chucky doll?
What
was his name? What was his name?
Well, it was a Chucky, but
it was Child's Play.
Ain't nobody. No, who the hell is...
That was a real doll. They just made a movie off of it.
You've lost your mind if you think I had a Chucky doll.
I thought it was
crazy.
Real, maybe it wasn't a real doll. I thought it was, though.
It might have been, but it wouldn't have been in my house.
So we're going to Universal soon.
Yes.
And we're going with our adult kids.
Okay.
Which Lauren's turning 21. Y'all, she's so freaking pumped about it.
Oh my gosh. She turns 21 in a week and a half.
She's wearing, so Annie made these shirts, had these shirts made for her. It says, I'm turning 21. And then on the back it says, buy me a drink, and gives a QR code to her Venmo.
Yes, so I'm going to be sending all of you the QR code. Please, somebody send this girl a couple dollars.
I hope somebody buys me a drink, I'm saying, Lauren, I hate to tell you, but...
You're not going to want to drink
at
Universal.
You ain't going to want to drink. You're not going to want to drink at Universal. You might want to get a drink at dinner so you think you're cool. I said... But if you go to drinking, you're going to feel like shit, and you ain't going to want to ride the ride. You ain't going to be want to walk around. Yeah. And this one right here.
I paid too much money for these tickets for that to happen.
If anybody's not there from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Well, because their tickets are ridiculous.
Okay. What's Universal?
It doesn't matter. I guess the whole point is, like, that shit's very
expensive.
But
I guess the question, we started talking about this, and I'd really love to know how others feel about this. And I feel like we've kind of touched on this before, but... When you have adult kids, first of all, I think I should, at least my opinion is, when they live in the house, it's one thing. When they no longer live in the house, I think it's something different.
Shocker.
But anyhow,
but anyhow,
like I guess the question is, when they are adult kids and you go on vacation, what are you as the parents responsible for, and what are they responsible for?
I think the majority out there, parents are paying for everything. If you take them on vacation, I think parents are paying for everything.
So hold on. How do you find, if you take them on vacation, how do you define that?
If I say, hey guys,
y'all want to go on vacation?
We're going to the beach. Okay. We're going wherever. Do you guys want to go?
Okay.
Yeah, we want to go. Okay, well, I'll make all the arrangements.
Perfect. So we took them to the mountains. We paid for everything. All right. So let's rewind. What if, instead of you saying, hey guys, we're going to the beach, do y'all want to go with us? They say, we're going to Universal. Would you guys like to go with us? Does that change things for you?
Apparently not.
Because we paid for the tickets already.
Yeah, no.
Did we pay for the fast passes?
Okay, first of all,
And we pay for the Airbnb.
Okay, no, I did not get fast passes. You're like, yeah, so I didn't. No, they said, hey, we want to go to Universal. We would love if you guys would go with us. I'm like, okay, yeah, I think that would be fun. Let's do that. We've not done that in a long time. Let's go do something like that. And so I'm like, I'm going to get the place to stay. So I got an Airbnb, and that actually, this is incorrect. They paid for their tickets. I paid for the 3 of our tickets.
Okay.
So that what you said is correct as far as that goes. But when we get there and like food and going out to dinner and stuff like that, like we're not going to be like, yeah, it's just us 3 and they got to pay for their own. Like I'm not doing that.
Okay, I didn't say one way or the other. I just simply asked. You don't know what my opinion on this is.
I do know what your opinion probably is, but
so I guess in my mind.
But honestly, like if it were me saying, hey, we want to go on vacation. Do you guys want to go? I'm getting everything.
Yeah.
And so that's fine.
So I guess.
And I hope that we're in a position, like, years. It just depends also what kind of position you're in. Yeah. Like, if you're not in the position to be able to do that, then okay, you don't ask them to go, or you got to say at the beginning of, okay, so we want to go here and we're going to get the place to stay, but like you guys are. We're going to eat at the house, or, whatever. Like, you guys are going to be responsible for, your food or whatever. Yeah. Like, we're giving you a place to stay. You come stay for free, but at least pay for your food.
So, just so you know, because you think I don't disagree. I guess when it comes to a place to stay, if we're going to go on vacation, we're going to pay for a place anyways. Yeah. It might cost a little bit more, but not a ton extra. We will be in a position when we go to Universal to pay for all of it. And honestly, I'm really fine with that. The fast passes, I think they're necessary at some point. I just don't know that they're going to be necessary when we go. But if we find out otherwise, we will quickly go buy the fast passes. Yeah. And it'll be a wrap. But anyhow, so I guess in my mind, when I think about like food, for example, if we're at dinner, I'm not going to tell the server, split the checks. But if we're at the park and we're eating at the park, you go to your hamburger stand, I'm going to go to my hamburger stand. I'm not going to go to a hamburger stand and drop $100. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, like, breakfast and lunch are 2 completely different things than dinner in my mind.
Okay, so what if they all decide to go to eat at the same place you want to eat?
I'm going to say, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to say, I changed my mind. I'm like, y'all eat here. If you want this, y'all eat here. I changed my mind. I'm going to go somewhere else. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to be like a jerk about it, but at the same time, like, they're old enough. They need to realize, okay, whatever, or just pick up the tab at dinner.
And I have no doubt that ours will do that. Like, I'm not concerned about that whatsoever at all.
But we've had this conversation with some of our other friends too who have adult kids, and I'm just really just curious.
All of our friends have adult kids,
and
we're the only ones actually that don't have grandkids. Everybody else has got grandkids, just about.
Now, when it comes to grandkids, like.
Well, so that's the
okay. So
let's talk about that. Yes, so if they were to if they brought grandkids with them, does that change the situation for you?
Yes.
Now, why is that?
Grandkids are on my ticket. Parents are on their own ticket. 100%. And grandkids get a vacation gift. Kids don't get a vacation gift, because that's what we've always done too. Whenever we go on vacation, we've always, Jackson always gets a pair of sunglasses, or Annie always gets a new purse, whatever it is. And so that's kind of always been a thing. And I think the last time we went on vacation, we didn't. Jackson tried to keep hinting to it.
Well, we went to the mountains.
Bitch, you 24.
We went to the mountains when we got out, and Jackson's like, so, like, what's our budget for our vacation gift? Yeah. And I was like,
I said, your budget was that Airbnb right there.
Well, what happened was you decided to move out.
No, but seriously, all jokes aside, when it gets into kids and grandkids, like, If you're going to a dinner at the beach, you're going to be dropping $300+ on every single meal. That's a lot.
Depending on how many, depending on how many people and everything. Yeah, but no, you're absolutely right. It gets to be a lot, which, we've gotten to the point where we don't, like, I don't like the the mainstream like places at the beach, like the
Margaritavilles
and stuff like that. They're not my favorite.
Well, they're all just the same. I mean, they're all just
like we usually go out for one nice dinner.
Yeah, but even if not, you're still spending a lot of money, and when you got 6+, and then I mean, it just adds up. It can get, and then if you have any drinks there, it just really adds up. Fortunately for us, like Jackson's not a big drinker. Ashley doesn't drink. Lauren, I don't think will be, so we're good in that department.
Our kids are extremely low key. Like they if we said we're not going out to eat, they'd be like, okay, cool, we're just go grab something or whatever. Like Lauren is the one that wants to be able to get dressed up and like go out or whatever. But Jackson and Ashley, they're like take it or leave it kind of thing. And so it's extremely simple for us. But yeah, Lauren is going to be 21 and we're going down there. It's not for her 21st birthday. It just happened to work out. That's when we decided to make it happen.
She's doing everything she can to turn this into her 21st birthday.
She damn sure turning this into her 21st birthday. So,
which honestly, I'm cool with. I really am, simply because she deserves for something to be about her and only her. You know what I mean? And not to say that we wouldn't have taken this trip anyways, but I think it's just gonna be different than.
Well, I was not down. I was not on board with this. I wasn't on board with it like from not the trip. It was like, for me, it's like, okay, like
I know
yeah,
like we're going to the park. We're not going to.
Well, you should have friends. Like this is like 21st birthdays. Like typically your friends. You and your friends go.
I think that's different. It's different than it used to be. It really is different than it used to be. It was different with Jackson.
I'm also very big on what I do for one, I do for the other. And if I don't do it for this one, then I'm not doing it for this one. Or if I do it for this one, then I'm going to do something different, but equal for the other one.
But that whole friend thing when you're 21, that's what it was when we were growing up. I really don't think it's like that anymore. Which I don't think a lot of them drink anymore either. You know what I mean? They just, which I'm cool with. I'm glad. But Lauren's back in here again. She heard her name.
She heard her name.
I don't agree with that.
You don't agree with what?
I think people still drink. They just, I feel like they overly drink for the 21, so then by the time they're 21, they're just kind of like, okay, like, it's an everyday thing for me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think that's what it is.
Peace out.
I was trying to hear what you were saying about 21st.
Well, you can hear it tomorrow when it comes out.
I'm going to be at work all day, so
okay.
I can't.
So she's going to be 21 this year. I'm going to be 50 this year.
Yeah, I told Annie.
So what are you doing for my 50th birthday?
We're going on a cruise.
No,
that
is our vacation. That is not for my 50th birthday.
There's a couple of you guys that are turning 50 over the course of the next year.
Yeah, it's going to be a real problem.
I think that we're trying to.
It's really going to be difficult.
We'll have to collectively come up with something. But we had already had the cruise planned, and to do the cruise and something 3-4 months later may be kind of tough to do that.
I don't know why you keep limiting me. That is a very limiting mindset, and I don't like it.
He's going to do what Nicole's doing. Instead of doing a trader's thing, he's going to do a golden bachelor.
So I told Annie today at dinner.
Let's talk about the fact. Yeah.
I told Annie today at dinner. I said there was one of the ladies from.
They announced the new golden bachelor.
Yeah, the new guy on the golden bachelor, and I said, you know what?
He's like 62.
66. But I told her, I said, you will actually qualify for the Golden Bachelor this year. I said next year, but then I was like, well, no, it's actually this year in December. And she was like, the fuck? And so, anyways, I Googled it, and I was wrong.
Yes.
I was wrong. What did it say, 60 to 75 or something?
Like,
so I was like 10 years off.
I mean, he would want me, obviously,
of
but
course.
He needs to probably have someone closer to his age.
But I thought, honestly, if someone's 66 and someone's 50, like once you're
that's
a certain once you're 50, you're pretty much.
I could go. Old. I mean, he wasn't bad looking for his age, and
Did you hear what he just said?
What?
He said once you're 50, you're pretty much old.
Yeah, no, you are, and so it's like the difference between 50 and 65 is really not. Get out of here, please. Jeez.
Okay, well, apparently anybody over 50, guys, I'm just old to him. He's throwing me away. So apparently I'm going to be eligible.
I will never throw you away.
So hit me up. Slide in those DMs.
So speaking of vacations, how do you want to talk about this business owner on vacation?
Oh, so I have a friend who messaged me the other day, and she
He or she?
No, it was a she.
Allegedly.
And so her and her husband were going on a trip or whatever. And on the way, she had messaged me or what, I don't know exactly how it all happened, but she had messaged me and she was like, oh my gosh, I feel like you a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to leave him here where he is and go home. Oh, Key West. She was like, I'm feeling like you did in Key West, because I was like, I just want to fly home and leave him here. And I'm like, ooh, I mean, I understand like what's happening, what's going on. And she's like, it's just frustrating. And part of the frustration had stemmed from, the spouse not really understanding that she is a business owner. And so the drive down to vacation where they were, she's having to still handle a few things, like tie up a few loose ends and like still answer a few phone calls from clients and different things. And so I thought, well, that's actually, I mean, I understand that. Like, we've both been through that, I think, on both sides, because when I had the boutique, I think you definitely, I'd be over there like, you're like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm responding to somebody who had placed an order, or I'm making sure all of the social media posts are scheduled, or, I'm, whatever, responding to a comment about, how does this fit or whatever. And I'm like, just because I go on vacation does not mean business stops, unfortunately. It's just, that's not how it works when you own a business. And so I thought that was interesting and something that probably a lot of couples might possibly deal with.
And I honestly don't know how you get over it. I mean, obviously pre-planning is important, and whether or not you have an admin or someone that works on your team or whatever. But like the Universal trip, I think will be short enough. I'll have a closing during that time, and I've already told the person I'm not going to be able to be there. That was partially my fault because I had it on my calendar, but the way it was on there. When I say partially my fault,
I literally sent a text.
No.
I said, these are the dates. I need every single one of you to mark everything out on your calendar.
But on your calendar, like if you do like Tuesday through Saturday, all it does is just put a little line up at the top instead of like an 8 to 5, 8 to 5.
I guess it just depends on what calendar you use. Yeah, and mine is not like that.
And the way, anyhow, lesson learned, I won't let that happen again. But anyhow, so like that trip I think will be fine. But when we get into August, I mean, there's probably a good chance I'm going to have to do some level of work while I'm there, which means I'm going to pay for the Wi-Fi package and all that stuff. But I will probably be meeting with a couple of other realtors ahead of time just to say, look, can you please, help me in like a worst case scenario, and I'll pay them some money and whatnot to do that. But I hope that it won't be too much of an issue.
But I think like the drive down to vacation, I personally as a business owner, like that, well, the whole vacation, honestly, it just is what it is. But yeah, that's still open time. I mean, hell, I remember, when I had the store and I was leaving my store, like my livelihood, sort of, in the hands of, 18 to 23, 24-year-olds. And so I would be on the beach, having a drink, but my
customer will come in and have an issue and they'd have to call you.
Yeah, my phone was there and I would be FaceTiming with them on the beach. Like, that's just the way that it is. And I think, as a spouse, I think you just have to have a little grace with that, even though I understand, because being on this side of it where I now I'm the one now having to be patient with you on, it's okay while you're sending a text, or you're making a phone call, or you're on your computer, because you don't multitask well. Like if you're sending a text, you're all into this text, there's basically, you're like, time out, don't say anything, I have to do this first. And I'm like,
do you know why I do that?
Because you say you'll forget it otherwise, blah, blah,
right.
blah, 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 blah,
and one or the other has to have undivided attention.
Sure.
Because you could be doing or act like you're doing both and doing neither one of them really well.
That's true.
Like you could be texting or doing whatever you're doing and I'm talking to you and you're only listening partially or you're only texting partially. One of those two things, or probably both are occurring.
And I don't disagree with that. And I think that is very valid and I understand that. But at the same time, it is difficult to feel as though you are just on the back burner, kind of on hold, waiting for at some point your attention to be free.
So I think a couple things, like I think preparation is key to this. I think like, trying to get people to help you and schedule and communicate with the people that you're going to be working with, whether or not it's customers, clients, whatever the case may be. I think that's number one. Number two is I think that you need to try to set boundaries as much as you can. But then I think the third thing, and this is the piece that I think we always struggled with, and I think probably most people struggle with, is if my attention is here, mm-hmm. Let's say this is normal. Okay, we're conversating, we're good. My attention comes over here to do some work. When I'm no longer working, it's not good enough to be here. I need to be here. You know what I mean? And I think that's what happens is when if I get pulled away to do something for work, and then when I'm done, I'm fully in Annie, and you know it and you feel it, and you like, I think that you're going to allow this over here a little bit more than, okay, I'm done with work, and then now it's just back to normal. You know what I mean? Especially like on vacation.
Yeah.
It's like if I'm just showering you with attention and love and all that other stuff, and I got to get pulled away for a minute. If I'm showering you and all that stuff, I think that's probably going to make most people feel fulfilled. Okay, I'm good with that. You know, and I think what happens is we fail to do that part of it, and we just kind of move along, and it's like, well, I don't give you that extra attention to make up for this. I don't give you that extra love to make up for this.
Well, I think I think you have to also be careful as the one who is the, business owner being taken away, that, okay, let's say it's a Facebook message that you have to answer, and, you go and you handle that. Well, then you got to be able to then turn that back off and not just slip into, okay, well, let me see what else is going on Facebook now.
Yeah, that's true.
And then your spouse is sitting over there like waiting, like, what the fuck? I thought we were going down to the pool, and it's 45 minutes later. At that point, I'm pissed. So I think
I am bad about that.
You are bad about that, and
you are too. But I am bad about that. You're not a business owner anymore.
Right. What am I responding to?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you are bad about that. You have to be very mindful of that, because that right there, that will piss me off quicker than anything else.
And not even on vacation. I mean, you brought this up a few episodes ago. It may have been the one we fought on. I don't know, about like my phone at the dinner table. Especially like after I make a post or something like that, and I know it's going to be an engaging post or whatever. It's like I pick it up, and next thing you know, it's like I'm reading all the comments. I'm reading it.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, if you are this interested in all these people, then you need to go be married to all these people, because I'm an actual person, not sitting at home somewhere else behind a keyboard, and that's where that's that frustration.
So in hearing you, because I listen. I have tried to make a very conscious effort to not even pick up the phone, because if I know that that's a challenge for me, I'm intentionally not even looking at my phone, not picking it up.
I think there are times where you can also discern, like, is
discern,
this?
That's
I brought out a big word. Like, is this really necessary? Sure. Is this something that I really
100%.
have to do right this second? And you're also...
But my mind works different.
It does. However, just because your mind works differently doesn't mean that you can't train your mind to work a different way, or do things to remind yourself so that you can make slight adjustments.
And I do. I mean, case in point, I have found myself going and sitting on the couch a couple times and I will remind myself, Kent, you need to go back in the kitchen. Even if you're just standing there, even if you're at the bar, even if you're at the whatever.
We have bar seats for a reason.
Yeah, we do, and they're uncomfortable, but that's fine. But
I'm uncomfortable standing up doing dishes.
But I can sit at the table and be just as close or engaged or whatever. But it's because it's a habit. I mean, it's literally like it's either a habit or an addiction. I don't know the answer to that. The going and sitting on the couch while you're cooking, that's a habit. That's not an addiction. It's just a habit. So it's like, okay, I have to break that habit and make sure that I'm getting up and engaging with you and that kind of thing. So the phone, that is an addiction.
Yeah.
Picking up the phone is the habit, and then getting stuck there is the addiction. And so I have to say, look, I can't even pick up this pack of cigarettes, because if I smoke one cigarette, I'm smoking the whole pack.
If he smokes one.
If I smoke one cigarette, I'm smoking the whole pack. So I've got to make sure that I don't even pick it up.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the other piece is it's just like having a good conversation about it, and in a time frame where you're both not frustrated. That is the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing I think that's helped us is, we might get pissed off. We might get, and we've had some real hard topics I feel like that we have come up against in the last 6 months and things that we've had to talk about and work through. And the biggest thing is moving past all of the emotion for the most part that you can, to then come back to the conversation at a later time where you hopefully can both be more rational about it. And that's hard. But I think if you can do that, and then also like having these conversations. Okay, so I know this is a frustration for you, and I want to do everything I can to like make that not a frustration. I don't want to do those things. I don't want to cause that frustration because I want to have a really good time on vacation. So what could I do? Like, how would it work for you? What would make you feel better? I have to do these things. So help me figure out a plan on how I can accomplish these things that I need to that come up, unforeseen, yet still do what it is that I need to do for you to make sure that I'm showing you all the attention and love that you need.
Yeah.
And that partner's got to be able to give some solutions.
And if
that partner can't give some solutions, then I don't know that, like, you can't do a whole lot of complaining if you're not willing also to figure out some solutions and ideas of what would make you feel better about the whole thing.
So case in point, what I just explained to you is, if you were to ask me that question, let's say you own a business today, and if you were to ask me that question, what I just explained with over here, that's exactly how I would answer that question is, okay, I understand that you got to get pulled away, but when you're not pulled away, I need extra ante. Mm-hmm. I need extra love. I need extra attention. I need whatever to kind of make up for that. And the other thing is, like, the business owner, like, you have to understand that, like, being married to a business owner is hard.
It is.
I mean, it really is. They're just, because the switch never gets turned off, and there's just so many pressures and all this. So I think that sometimes, as like a business owner, we have to step back and say, look, I have to really be mindful of what this person's trying to say to me. But to your point, the spouse can't just continue to get mad and never give a solution. You can't not vote and then get pissed about who the president is. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So
yeah, I think it's definitely, you both have to have some skin in the game as far as like having that whole conversation, and you got to just be willing to have that conversation. It is shocking to me. I feel like when I talk to other couples, or the amount of other couples that I talk to that feel like they can't talk to their spouse. And I'm just like, what do you guys do? I don't understand. Like, how do you're just very high level all the time? I don't understand. And
it just ends up, a lot of times it just ends up coming to a head at that point. Or they just don't communicate at all.
Or you get to a point where your kids are grown and leaving, and you don't have that buffer, because I think kids are so much of that buffer for people that when the buffer is gone, what do you do? Like, what are you doing? Like, who is this person? So I think that
they just need to start a podcast, because this helps with communication.
I swear to God, like, it's nothing is perfect, and it never will be perfect. I'm not naive enough to think that, things are always amazing, because they most certainly are not. And I feel like we've shared enough on here to let people know that it is not amazing all the time between us. But damn, it definitely has helped.
Yeah, I've always felt like we were pretty good at communication, but I feel like, and I've said this multiple times on here, like, having this podcast, it almost forces you into thinking through, it's case in point. 2 episodes ago, I was an asshole, whatever, and then you and I had a conversation a couple days later, and because of kind of what we talked about and that kind of thing, it was like, it forced us into, like we knew we couldn't go into another podcast with the same demeanor and disposition. Like, it would have just sucked. And it's like, okay, we have no choice but to talk about this at this point. And so we kind of had some breakthrough and all that stuff. And I hate it, because I hate that we didn't record that conversation, because we tried to explain that conversation, summarize that conversation last episode, and I don't think it really did it justice on just how much of it didn't to me. I don't go back and listen to it.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
I don't go back and listen to it, and I should. But anyhow, maybe I'll feel differently. But I just feel like it was just a very, very genuine solid conversation. So
it really was. And it took a solid week to get there because you were not having it. You were not hearing it. And I pretended and ignored it until I knew.
But I thought it was funny that our friend
said, I couldn't continue ignoring it.
I'm about to pull an A&E and jump on an airplane from the beach yes. because of what we shared last year. So.
Yes. So it was, yeah. So anyway, I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's, I hope that people maybe could take some of the things that we talk about, even if you don't know how, maybe you don't know how to approach your spouse and have this kind of conversation. Then you say, listen, I listened to this podcast today and this is what they were talking about.
Listen to it together. Well, and maybe that will spark a conversation.
They can listen
to
it together.
But listen to it on 2 different devices, so it counts as 2 listens.
Or if you listen to it, you take it to your spouse and say, listen, this is what I heard, and this is what, they said. Like, what do you think about this? And maybe that'll give your spouse a chance to open up. And if they don't, then you say, okay, so this is what I think about this. And now I need you to understand what I think about this. And now what do you think about this?
Or if instead of what do you think about this, it's like, maybe asking some of the same questions that we've asked to kind of spark some conversation because, a lot of times when communication breaks down, it's because neither person's asking the questions or they're not asking the right questions.
Yeah.
But to your point earlier, like trying to do what we're talking about after it's heated rarely works.
Oh no,
and
don't get me wrong.
It doesn't work with us either.
No, and don't think that I don't have emotions because I go here and I go there quick, and I'm going to say the things that I want to say, and I'm going to get them out, and I'm going to scream, and I'm going to yell, and probably cry also, or
you're going to completely shut down.
Or I'm going to completely shut down and go somewhere and get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be around you. Get out of my energy, and so. Like those, I am that crazy. That's my crazy.
But no good conversation is going to come during either one of those times.
But I have to get those emotions out. Yeah. If I don't get those emotions out, like going to the gym does not get that emotion out for me. I will come right back and I will be just as pissed off. So that's just the way some people work. So you got to let that happen. Uh-oh, what happened?
I don't know. It's just telling us they're closing down in 5 minutes.
Oh, well, are you going to do the thingy and make it not do that? Boomer, I swear. Act like you've done this before.
Oh, shit, I forgot. I've only done it one time.
Yeah, but okay. Shit, okay. I've learned after that one time.
This is about to fall off, so.
Anyway.
We're almost at an hour anyway.
Yeah, we are almost at an hour. Well, anyway, is there anything else that we really, really, really wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. I do want to talk about the show 0 Day. If you've not seen it, it's on Hulu. It's, I think, 8 episodes, something like that, with Robert De Niro, aka Richard De Niro. Super. I mean, it's such a good show, but it's almost frightening how possible true some of this type stuff is with people in power.
There's not a single show out there that I do not believe has already happened. I do not believe that you're just making this up. Yeah. I think they have already happened and now they're just making shows about it. So it's really good. Yeah. I think it's 10 out of 10. Absolutely watch it.
So we'll maybe kind of talk about that next time. But
I feel like there was something else we watched recently too that I was like really liked.
I don't know. But I think that's all that's on the list. So.
Yeah, and that last one.
Oh yeah, being there for the kids without being controlling. Lauren brought that up today.
What?
Being there for the kids without being controlling.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the last one that you put on there. That I think that one's going to require more conversation.
Yeah, and the live's going to stop here in a minute.
I think that's going to be one that we need to probably dedicate more.
Cool, we'll do that next episode.
Oh my God, he's rushing me.
It's going to cut off.
Okay, so what? Okay, bye, live. We still got podcast people here.
Damn, son.
I mean, shit. Anyway.
Are you going to do your bye?
Apparently we are. Okay, bye. We're ending the episode. Damn.